I'm back. It's Thursday. Let's bake. So, yeah, had to take the summer off. Arizona's hot. You guys have seen me make French bread like 500,000 times. I've already started. So, if you're new here, I'm Rhonda. This is where I bake things and I talk about weird, random stuff that I just find funny. And if that sounds like something that you might also be interested in, then please consider subscribing. Like I said, French bread, and I thought it was going to be kind of cute because today we're going to talk about the conspiracy theory birds aren't real. So, watch the video until the end before you decide to write me a long paragraph about this theory. Okay, thanks. I'd appreciate it. The Cliff Notes version of this theory is this group believes that the government killed off all the birds and replaced them with robots to spy on American citizens. They have created some really great content to back up their theory, and I'll post the links in the description box below. You can visit the group's website at this address, and you can read their 20-minute long history if you're so inclined. Or, you can just listen to me give you the highlights of it. Or you can do both. I don't know. It's your call. But according to the group, with the creation of the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, it was created for just one purpose: to spy on American citizens. You knew that, right? We all knew that. Everybody knew. We all knew. According to them, this orchestrated stalking epidemic went on for almost 5 years, and few were found guilty of any real crimes. So, good. Perhaps not many average American citizens were out doing communist-y things like they thought. Or, maybe they were. Allegedly, the wrongful arrest and convictions of the Rosenbergs for spying on behalf of Mother Russia, the USSR, quote, a small window to implement a new program would place the first CCTV surveillance cameras in areas with high Russian immigrant concentrations. Suspicious. So, yeah. This would go on for a time, right? They'd be spying on people with their spy cameras in various locations with heavy Russian immigrant concentrations. And then in 1953, Allen Dulles was the first civilian director of the CIA. He would make it his mission to ramp up the spying by hiding cameras and making them almost impossible to detect. According to the group, it was April 15th, 1956. Remember that date. When Dulles would meet with President Eisenhower and propose a plan to put cameras in the sky, as he knew the future for spy cameras was in the sky. Why only have some stuffed in a sewer grate somewhere or on a street corner when you could just switch them out whenever, and then you'd have to switch them all the time. Well, they went over here. Oh, they went over there. Well, now you can just have something in the air always and forever watching. And in one of my favorite parts of the thesis, you get this gem. So the evil plan was hatched, and the government was going to repurpose B-52 bombers in order to kill off all the birds in America. According to the website, they would recruit 23 Boeing engineers from Seattle and move them to Area 51. And they were going to construct these bird killing devices. It was all very hush-hush. It's supposed to be on the DL. Shh. And then this way no one could claim that they saw any work being done on these planes for this nefarious, evil master plan to kill off all the birds. The engineers would purchase an old school bus for their road trip to Nevada, as well as couches and rugs. And they were also heard talking about having to create a really cool playlist for their road trip. Oh, and they also painted Area 51 or bust on both sides of the school bus. So much for keeping it on the QT. At one stop in Idaho, locals claimed that the men would reveal intimate details of their mission in Area 51. According to the website, clearly they were complete idiots, but their idiocy is one of the hardest pieces of evidence on how the government killed the birds. So, 23 men were recruited for this super secret, not so secret mission to Area 51. But one man, who the site says is a man by the name of Neil Ford, he didn't make it to Area 51. Apparently the group abandoned him at a Waffle House when he was in the bathroom because, quote, he had to pee too many times and he was ruining the vibe of the road trip. Okay. Oh. According to the thesis, Neil would speak to the founding members of Birds Aren't Real before his death back in 1994, claiming that Dulles was searching out engineers that didn't have any families so that it would be easier to disappear them. All right, so you keeping up? Started out with 23 engineers, 22 made it to Area 51, where they were tasked with creating 450-gallon water tanks to be placed in the bombing compartments of the B-52s, thus making them B-52Bs. The second B allegedly stands for birds or Barack. I don't know why Barack, but all right, weird. The water tanks, well, they were apparently difficult to design. And according to the thesis on their website, one engineer almost gave up, quote, but Dulles hit him over the head with a 40-pound wrench to try and knock some sense into him. Okay, so this would put the man in a coma, and he would never wake up from it. And now we're down to 21. They would complete the task, fit the tanks on each bomber with a complex system of radar and tracking technology installed in the nose of the aircraft, which would apparently enable the flight crew to track large flocks of birds from up to 200 miles away. Shocking. Okay, it took 2 years for them to complete the bombers. They had the water tanks. They were painted with 5 coats of jet black matte paint to camouflage them in the night sky, and all external lights were removed, and they were fitted with noise reduction pads so that they would be able to fly completely silently at altitudes of up to 3,000 feet or higher. As the thesis goes, the 21 remaining engineers were told that they could leave, but 30 minutes after their departure, on their way back to Seattle, they were intercepted, loaded into the back of an armored troop transport vehicle, and sent to the front lines in Vietnam, where they would survive for 3 weeks before being kidnapped by the Viet Cong and never heard from again. Now, he went to the president in 1956. And I'm assuming, because they don't have a year, that they started production maybe in 57. Just for the sake of argument, they started in 58. So now they're done by 1960. When did the war in Vietnam start? So I had to look it up for my own edification. I was curious. I wanted to make sure I was right. I don't want to be historically inaccurate. 1954 was when U.S. involvement started in Vietnam. But it wasn't until 1965 when Johnson would actually commit combat troops to go to Vietnam. Didn't mean that there wasn't combat going on, but that's just when they were committed. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, there was support going on for South Vietnam.
But not
But it
like,
wasn't actual formal, okay, we are honest to goodness at war with this other country.
I know. And so then I'm confused. Like say they were done in 1960. They're not going to the front lines of Vietnam in 1960.
We still send advisors. And it could be some of that, it could be air support, it could be naval gun support, stuff like that, not necessarily just full-fledged battalions of soldiers and Marines tromping through the jungle.
Okay. I heard it was hell. But anyway, that war ended in 1975, and I know why I thought it was later in the 60s, and that's because anytime that you study the 60s, they always talk about, the hippies and Woodstock and blah, 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 and, make love, not war, peace, love, and hippiness forever. Yeah. So real quick, behind the scenes, because I don't think that I've ever talked about this anytime that I have made French bread in the past. I do a double batch, and then I weigh it on my little food scale here, and then divide it in half, and then I should have 2 equal size loaves of French bread, in theory. So anyway, we left off. We're going to talk about the B-52s. The water tanks were filled with a special kind of poison. Did I say this already? I don't.
Talked about a special kind of poison in the water tanks.
Designed to completely to kill the birds.
And dissolve them.
They would decompose in 24 hours, and then it would all dissolve before it hit the people on the earth.
Yes, so there'd be no evidence of the birds having
That's
been
right, because
destroyed.
then I had to put up the Operation Big Bird. So this is what happens when you have to pause for a while to wait for the bread to rise. So this goes on for a period of time. They're just flying around at night with no lights, killing all the birds. Birds are dying, allegedly. They're being replaced by robot spy birds, allegedly, according to the website. Not my opinion. JFK is now in office. He is unaware that any of this is going on until, according to the thesis on the website, he was trying to figure out who was stealing his ham sandwiches. Ham sandwiches. He would overhear a conversation between Alvin Cleaver, who was the internal communications director for the CIA, and that Dulles guy who disappeared 23 engineers. Clever guy. Talking with Mr. Cleaver. Probably not the father of Wally and the Beaver. Anyway, JFK overhears a conversation with them, orders them both into his office, demands them to stop the slaughter of the birds. And they're like, oh, but wait, let us show you how this works. He's like, okay, fine. You can show me. So they showed him the Turkey X500. This was supposedly to be a specialized thing to kill larger birds like eagles and falcons. But I thought that the poison was supposed to completely dissolve them. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently they don't fly. I don't know.
Wait a minute, speaking of turkeys, if all the birds are gone, what the hell am I been eating every Thanksgiving?
Soylent Green?
What the hell are they serving at Chick-fil-A?
Soylent Green?
These people?
This has gone off the rails. So, they show him the Turkey 5000, right? And it's supposed to kill larger birds like falcons and eagles and, quote, its surveillance skills as well as the ability to find and track escaped criminals. So it can kill large birds and find and track escaped criminals. Then why didn't they use them to find Ted Bundy? Or the Green River Killer? Or John Wayne Gacy? I think it's a lie. So this is allegedly why Eisenhower initially approved it, was, you know, they could find and track killers. And so it's alleged that while JFK was impressed with all of it, he still ordered them to stop the slaughter of the birds. No more killing all the birds in America. And according to the thesis, quote, JFK was murdered by the CIA because he was against the mass murder of every feathered flying creature in the United States. There is your other conspiracy theory of JFK. And allegedly, according to the thesis, since from Eisenhower to JFK, all the presidents turned a blind eye. And all of the presidents since JFK have turned a blind eye to the mass murder of all the birds. Okay, so you get the idea. The government used super secret science fiction to kill off all the birds and replace them with robot spies. And if that was not enough, according to the thesis, the real reason the U.S. went to Vietnam was for bauxite ore, which they needed in order to make the robot birds. And what about those people who made these robot birds? Why don't they remember making the robot birds? Well, you'll have to check this out. And thus, a movement was started with a wonky conspiracy theory. My son was telling me that he had heard the theory that pigeons weren't real, but not that all birds weren't real. But apparently, according to the pigeon conspiracy, well, have you ever seen a baby pigeon? That's why they're not real. You never see a baby pigeon. And it's the only reason that pigeons are only in urban areas. They are not out in the woods, ever. When have you ever seen a pigeon when we've been camping? Never. Never. No pigeons when you're camping. Only in the urban areas.
I've been out in the woods. It's the squirrels that are monitoring us.
The Birds Aren't Real group has taken it next level. They even had a rally. You can see the video here.
It's spies! It's spies! It's spies! It's spies!
Had to create a bread tent. It's pretty awesome. So, like I had said, baby pigeons. One group has taken to the streets to ask people if they've ever seen baby pigeons, and they've said no, which is, proof that at the very least pigeons aren't real. Have you ever had a bird as a pet? Because this other group says, why have an Alexa or a Google Hub thing or whatever in your house, you know, people are against it because, you know, government's buying. Pet birds, they never sleep, and some of them talk. Think about that the next time you're thinking about getting a bird. Also, just the last thing that I want to mention, the next time that you see bird poop on your car, don't think that it is something just as innocuous as bird poop.
I would like to bring some stats to your attention before we go this evening. Have you ever wondered why bird poop falls on your car rather than the ground? Maybe because it's a liquidated tracking apparatus sent out by the government. Can I get an amen?
So, all in all, very well done satire. Which is why I said wait until the end. I'll leave some links to some of their other ridiculousness. It's hilarious. It's a good time. You should go watch it. The bread is done. Oh, I'm so excited. So, got any weird news stories, conspiracy theories, recipes, something you'd like to share, you'd like to see me make, you'd like to hear me talk about? Let me know down in the comments below. Until next time, try feeding some bread to the birds. See if they eat it. Because I'm guessing if they're robots, they won't.